I prepared questions, and they did get some of these ahead of time. I threw in a few that might be a little bit different, but no, they're not rehearsed responses, I'm sure. And yet, we've tried to kind of put a little bit of organization together. But do you guys want to start by just introducing yourselves a little bit and sharing when you got your license? And let me start there.
I'm Adrienne Towner, and I got my license for Kansas, Missouri last April. I'm Amanda Sitzman. I got my license for Missouri in May of last year and Kansas exactly a year ago.
Jeff Diakos. I got licensed actually I think back in 2013. Actually really started getting active about 3 years ago. And then I got my Kansas broker's license about 2 months ago.
Nice. Very, very. Are you going to get Missouri as well? Or?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay. I heard that they're like they had tightened the restrictions a little bit on.
Yeah, so that's kind of main. Yeah, I got right under the wire. Yeah, because they changed where you had to pass exam before a certain date before the end of last year. Otherwise, you're going to have to take an additional 3 hours of course. It's like I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I really want to become a broker or not, but it makes more sense to do it now. So
nice. Excellent. Okay. What do you want to start, Jeff? We'll start with since you're already talking. Did you work in any other industries prior to real estate?
Sure. So I come from a landscaping background. So I started mowing when I was about 11 years old, knocking on doors, and then went to KU. Decided pretty quickly after that I did not want to work in sport athletics. So I started another company, and until about 2016. We had about 240 properties that we were doing lawn maintenance, landscaping, that kind of stuff. And then I just got to a point where I was ready for a transition in my life and got real estate.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. Were you able to bring some of that database with you then into real estate?
Yeah, I'd say 100%. That kind of helped me get a little bit of edge right off the bat. I've always been a very social person, so being able to reconnect with previous customers on a certain level really kind of helped me get an extra boost in real estate.
How about Amanda? Were you involved in other industries prior to real estate?
Yeah, I worked in the financial services industry. I was doing contract negotiating, so it did transfer, I feel like, very well over to real estate, although our contracts are a lot more complicated. But it was an industry that I was in for about 6 years, and I felt like it transferred pretty well.
Nice. Okay. I like how I'm asking these questions to these guys like I don't know. I should probably be like, hey Amanda, like tell us a little bit more. Your husband and you have other businesses outside of real estate as well, though, right?
Yeah, I used to refer to us as serial entrepreneurs, but I've heard that that's actually not like an endearing term, so I stopped doing that. But we're just bad employees, and so we both decided that we should probably start some businesses, and we've owned a mentorship, coaching and development for leadership development business for a handful of years now. We own a few Airbnbs, and then of course now he owns a traditional business, some boring things that he does having to do with machinery, and then now I just started the real estate business.
Very cool. So you keep busy.
We stay pretty busy, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Adrienne, were you in any industries prior to real estate?
So before real estate, I was mainly in college, and throughout college I was a waitress, and so you learn a ton of great skills in customer service. And then once I graduated from college, I moved up to Kansas City and became a marketing director / assistant manager for a medical spa here in Brookside. And that was great because you really learn how to develop lasting, trustful relationships with your clients. And I think that's super important in real estate as well. So developing those kind of relationships.
So interesting. Okay, well that makes sense too with the marketing that you do.
Yes.
As well. When you got into real estate, did you guys jump full in full time, or was there any part-time hesitation or anything that you did part-time? What did everybody go in full time?
So I was part-time. I was actually in a partnership landscape company. We had a mutually agreeable divorce, if you will. And so anyways, I downsized, and that's when I was able to kind of get into real estate. And then basically I did that for about a year, and then ended up selling it and then jumped in full time. So.
I still worked my corporate job for probably 5 months whenever I first started, until it made sense for me to just dive in full time.
And then I went full time. I have a great support system, so that made it really easy to transition that full time. And I really was just tired of working for someone else and overworking and being underpaid. So thought real estate was a great transition for that.
Now, have you guys been able to utilize your past industry experience or those networks at all in real estate and in your sales initially coming in?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said, with the size company that we had too, just in landscaping, I mean, everybody owned a home. So it was pretty easy to kind of just start getting my name out there. And then, when I was in college too, I made it kind of a point to try to get involved with a bunch of different groups. So, I mean, I just try to stay in touch with as many people as I can.
Amanda, do you guys utilize your business that you and your husband have as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are connected to a lot of people in the Kansas City area, and even outside of that, just in the Midwest in general, through the leadership development program that we're a part of. And so a lot of those people are young, getting themselves into a better financial situation is really what we help people do. And so naturally buying a house kind of becomes one of those next steps. And so we've been able to definitely realize that.
Moving on to scheduling. Well, let me stick to that, because I think when you first get into real estate, I don't know, you guys raise your hands if you felt this way, but it's often like you don't want anyone to know that you're a salesperson, like, right? Like we're kind of like, you go into the happy hour and you're like, yep, I'm here. And then someone says, oh, that's my realtor friend. And you're like, oh, shh, nobody's going to talk to me. Did you feel like you had any hesitation in really broadcasting or that you were a realtor? Was there any kind of, when you first got into business?
It's a little uncomfortable at first, just kind of putting that hat on and becoming a salesperson. You haven't had that experience before. And really putting yourself out there is pretty uncomfortable. But once you kind of get in the groove of it, it's really fun. And then if you have a passion for it, it makes it really easy to kind of, promote yourself. And I think people take you more seriously and want to work with you whenever you are really passionate about their career.
Oh, I think that's a great point. That is a really, really good point, that when you're comfortable speaking to it,
Yes.
It gives people confidence in you being in that career field as well. Anything to add on kind of your journey between like, I'm an undercover agent to like, okay, I'm out here and this is my career choice?
I was always in sales, actually. So I've never, I kind of like to hit the nail on the head with that, because I don't see a problem with it. Everybody, in my opinion, is in sales. If you're in a relationship, you sold yourself to your spouse or your significant other.
Yeah.
We're all in sales at some point. So I just, I get excited to talk about real estate just from the sense of, like what Adrian talked about, I was in corporate for so long, working for somebody else. And so I get excited to let people know that I own my own business now.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, when it comes to your schedule, guys, do you work consistent hours? Are you kind of go with the flow? How do you guys build your schedule each week? Jeff?
So I'd say before kind of quarantine, I was very orchestrated. Say I was getting up a lot earlier too, and kind of staying on a consistent path. Now it's a little bit different. Fortunately, the weather's warmer. We have a pool, so I wake up, kind of dive in, get the juices flowing a little bit, and then nice thing is coffee shops are open, so like I can work at home, but like I feel like I get more done if I'm either at the office or a coffee shop. So usually up by, I'd like to say at least 7 a.m. and then try to hop in the pool and then get started from there. So
Nice. How about you, Amanda?
I mean, before or after COVID, it just really depends. It's funny because we were just talking about this. I do think it's important to set a schedule that's realistic for you, and I'm sure other questions that you're going to ask, just because I've had a peek at them, touch on like priorities outside of real estate too. So that has a lot to do with like how I set my schedule and when I'm doing what I do. But I think it's just going to be different for everybody. And I think you kind of see who you are most like or who you want to emulate. Like in real estate, and me being so new, don't look at me because I'm brand new. Like look for somebody like a Chris Austin or somebody that you want to emulate the results that they have, and then maybe work yourself backwards, finding like, what does Chris Austin do when he wakes up? You know, like, what is he eating for breakfast? That's what I'm gonna eat too. But it's just figuring out, like, I'm still, I guess, in that mode of figuring out, like, what does that schedule look like for me so that I can attain the results in life that I want, and it might be different for everybody.
How about you, Jen?
Schedule is something I'm still trying to figure out. It's been a big adjustment to not have a set schedule every day by a boss, by a boss figure. So it's definitely the most challenging for me. But I do wake up consistently in the mornings at before 8 o'clock, and I take a shower and I read my emails, and then I kind of just let my clients kind of lead the day if they need anything. And of course, scheduling appointments whenever is great for my clients. So something I'm trying to figure out.
Well, in real estate, in your first year, cheers to you guys for having a schedule and something, because real estate makes that really difficult. I don't know, and all the agents in the room are like nodding, because there's so many times where you get up and you're in the office at 9 and you may be showing until 7:30 at night and then writing up an offer, and by all means, like, it's good finding that balance too, where maybe it's Wednesdays of your day that you can take for your union time or whatnot. So kudos. I think having a schedule though and being purposeful is important, so you can nail those important things. Okay, so on that change of schedule thing, this is something that through the years has been difficult, and I'd be interested in being new to the business. Communication in relationships are key. All of you either have, like Jeff, recently married.
I am, yep. Still married.
Still married.
Yep.
Nice, way to go. And Adrian, you're soon to be.
Yes.
And Amanda, 10 years. So you all have significant others you have to communicate those key things with. Your fiance's here, just so everyone knows.
Answer wisely.
So answer honestly.
Yeah.
No, but how do you guys communicate kind of in getting into real estate and those constant changes, where like a house did just pop on the market and I need to serve my clients at a high level, and I gotta pop out and go see it. How do you communicate that? How do you balance that communication?
For me, I know it's just like setting that expectation up front with my partner, that this is kind of a go industry and really on a whim. And the moment that a house hits the market, you really got to be the first to see it to, even have a advantage over other people. So I think it's just setting that expectation of what type of industry it is up front.
This might sound like relationship advice, and I don't mean for it to, but just for us personally, like, we have to both be on the same page of, like, what do we both want long term? Why do we want that? And if we both understand the goal, whatever that is, the 5-year goal, the 10-year goal, right now we're working on our 500-year goal. So whatever that is for us, like, if we're not on the same page with it, what I'm doing, taking time away from him, won't make sense. And so I think that probably is the root for us, is just making sure that, hey, why I'm doing this. We're doing this, for the same purpose, for that legacy mindset. And so it makes it a lot easier to be like, okay, I gotta go now on a whim, like you said, to go show a house or whatever.
Yeah, I'll kind of just piggyback what they were saying, just like kind of being upfront as you can at the beginning. I mean, when Taylor and I were first dating, she always knew that I was on my phone. And obviously there's certain points where I need to just, all right, Jeff, put the phone down so we can have dinner and then pick it up. But yeah, to their point too, it's just that the market is as crazy as it is. And if you don't get out there and see it that first day, then it's gone. So.
Have you felt like you've had to set those expectations with friends or family? I feel like through the years that was something too that it was. Has there been any time that that's come up where people have not necessarily understood, like, why you're at their birthday party, you might have stepped out 6 times to have a conversation, or has that not been an issue?
Well, I don't know. I guess Taylor's definitely brought it up to me where it's just like, you need to go outside and talk on the phone instead of being inside. So I mean, which I'm grateful for, because I'm glad somebody told me that. But yeah, most of the time people see me on the phone, it's like, I'm working. So
Nice. Okay. Any work-life balance tips that you have?
Get a pool.
Yeah.
Get a pool, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So I always try to set at least like one day a week where we can go out and have us time, where I will put my phone down and not touch it. So, or at least try to do that. So
Nice.
one day a week at least.
I'd love to hear some advice in those areas.
Okay. Sounds good. What about you time? Do you have like designated just you only time or not?
I try to do like a 15-minute moment of peace every day where I leave my phone inside and either go on a walk or like sit out on my porch, because just disconnecting from that constant communication is so stressful. And so if you just take 15 minutes for yourself, it's really important and it kind of refreshes you. And also anything can wait 15 minutes. So I think it's a good little me time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Anything can wait 15 minutes.
I like that.
Okay, diet and exercise. I'm like hitting up all the like good stuff.
I just ate like 20 wings a second ago.
Wow, so it's like more bulk for you. Jeff?
Yeah. So I don't know. Since I mean the gyms are closed, we got the mirror. It's like this techie fitness thing,
Yes.
and it's actually pretty sweet. It's because like you like see this virtual guy on there yelling at you to keep doing push-ups, and you just for whatever reason you're like, all right, I gotta keep please this guy. No, before everything hit, like I was constantly going at least 3 days a week, going to the gym early, getting that routine going, and then getting off. But now it's just, I like to say it's very orchestrated, but it's not.
Okay. Just yeah. I know COVID's made it hard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're all out of a little bit out of routine. It's a little bit easier to well, and harder, right? We're all in different routines for maybe we're making more at home.
But it's so important to get that like hour exercise in just for your mental.
Yeah. Well, and I find too, like often those like listing appointments at 7 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like above the fireplace, there's like a board like this, and they're like a mantle, and I'm like, yes, like we would need to clear up in there. Where I would be like, oh, I need to eat next time before I go to this listing appointment. It would make the work so much easier. Okay, how about your marketing and managing your business? Are there things that you do when it comes to marketing yourself that you feel like has helped? Adrian, we'll start with you. I know, because people don't know, Adrian was recognized as one of the top social media people her first year in real estate.
So I really hit Instagram heavily in the very, very beginnings, establishing my brand, AT Sells KC. And I just really put myself out there a lot. People really, really respond much better if you put yourself like on video or you're in the picture or it's kind of like a hint into your real life. People really like that. So I think it's just being personable and other people being able to connect with you easily through like your social media. I think it's very important with your brand.
And so in developing your brand, like, was there a theme of like what you wanted it to look like or feel like? Is there like how did you start that? Where did you start?
I actually had influence from another Instagram realtor. Her name's Lindsay Elliott, and she is a real estate agent in New Jersey. And I just loved how her social media looked. It was super professional and very clean, but very personal and relatable. So that's kind of how I built my Instagram to kind of reflect from her ideas.
Nice. And I don't know how you feel. I feel like it's inspiration. It's not like, and it's a form of flattery. And unless you're like creeping outside their house to get the inside scoop, it's totally okay, right?
Like definitely don't like copy and paste exactly and be, copycats, but just to kind of make it your own twist. But I think it's important to put yourself out there and give them a piece of you as well.
And so do you write your own post or do you work with anyone else to have them kind of to bounce it off of? I know some agents have shared that they might write something and send it to someone else to have them go back and forth, or do you write your own?
Sure. I do a lot of my own posting, and then I also am part of a program called Coffee and Contracts where they come up with creative captions and ideas.
Coffee and Contracts, you said
Yes.
that is like a group?
Yes, and you pay a monthly fee and they build like a great caption for a specific photo, give you ideas of like what kind of photo would match that kind of caption. It's a good thing to give some ideas.
Okay, so for some of us that are over 35, where do you find that? Is it on Instagram then, or is it a Facebook thing?
I found it through Instagram. It was just like an ad on Instagram, and so I clicked it and kind of dove in and just looked into it, and I really liked the way that they marketed themselves. And so it's a lot of helpful knowledge to potential buyers and sellers on Instagram that are looking. It's a lot of tips and tricks and promotional videos. It just gives you a great idea of how to promote yourself and also give people advice and give them, something to.
Well, content development, I feel like is always that sticking point where you're like, what do I do? Okay, another silly question: do you take your own photos, or how does where does your lovely partner here assist with that?
I take a lot of my own photos, and then I also have like a tripod with my phone so that I can take photos that look more staged and professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can stop being honest at any time.
Yeah.
Is it like one of the, because you do a great job, like her photos
Yeah.
look very, very well, like very polished, and like, is it often where you're doing that? Like, is it like a 15-minute activity? Is it a 5-minute, okay, we've got 3, one of these will work, let's move on? Or how much time do you really put into it? Because it has, I think, helped grow your business.
Yes.
Tremendously.
In the very beginning, whenever my schedule is a little bit more lax, I had a lot more time to just kind of delegate to just taking pictures of stuff and going around Kansas City and taking cool pictures of homes. And so that was really helpful. Also, my sister would come over and take pictures with me, and then she got tired of being my photographer. So I mean, it was just kind of a mix of blocking out a specific time of the day that I was going to take some photos and kind of come up with some creative captions and social media posts.
Okay, and Adrian, do you do them all at one time in a week, or do you do it like throughout the week? Like, how do you, I mean, is it a scheduled thing? Is it time blocked? Like, I mean, you just mentioned time blocking. Is it something you sit down and do? What's your approach?
Yes, like usually the night before I'll go through like my camera roll and kind of find a picture and come up with something. So I type it out beforehand and then save it to my camera roll. On Instagram, you can kind of save a draft. And then the next morning, I always like to post in the very early morning, like around 7 a.m. I think that's whenever you get the most likes and people see it the most.
Because people like me can't help but get on their phone in the morning when they first wake up.
Yeah.
Every day I'm like, not doing it today. Oh shoot, they like 7 minutes. So, yeah, that's a good day. That's a good day. Jeff, how about you? I feel like you've got a different flavor to your marketing and your social media.
Yeah. So I'd say like a lot of it, I would say kind of my specialty is like helping people realize as far as like, it might not be Chip and Joanna, but there's certain things that you can help do to help, increase the value of your home or make it show better. So I kind of do a mix of, maybe it's a house is coming soon, stuff like that. I don't mind getting in front of the camera and kind of advertising a house, but a lot of the other part of it too is just like we're remodeling our house right now. There's a lot of stuff that I've done, some stuff that I've helped, sub out. So I think a lot of people reach out to me. It's like, hey, what's the ballpark to take down that wall? Or what would it cost to have a custom island built? So I kind of try to incorporate that with also trying to keep things light and entertaining to help keep viewers and clients interested in everything I put on. So
I think through a lot of what you do, I see humor, and like I can't help but like smile and laugh when I think in a positive way.
Sure.
When I think of you. And I think that's similar to what you're saying, that like getting that little bit of a view into your world makes you more approachable and more comfortable. I had a conversation with someone the other day that like maybe having a client event in your home is a good idea because you're asking people to open up their home to you and trust you to come in and not judge them and such. That would be a
I think transparency is huge. Sure.
Showing that you're a person.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Amanda, you developed Sanctuary as your brand. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did you go about developing that and coming up with that?
So developing my brand in the beginning is something that was really important to me because, again, I wanted to work backwards from what I wanted long term. And when I was thinking about where do I see this going, it kind of encapsulated everything. It was an umbrella that could really gather real estate, but also we have some Airbnbs, and so it could kind of be a brand for that. I have an interior designer that I work with, so it just really worked for all of that. But then it also had, for me, just personally, it had biblical meaning that was important to me, and for me to be able to start my own business and to be able to be my authentic self, that was really important. So I wanted to have a brand that really kind of touched on all of those things so that it could bring the right clients to me, the people who connected with me, kind of your tribe, so to say. And so that was important. As far as the executing on the marketing piece, I have found that that's not something that I am super strong in, but being in my first year of business, I do everything on my own. I was lucky enough to do some trade service. I did an interior design project for a gal who owns a branding and marketing company, and so she's going to be helping me kind of understand how to do marketing and branding, because I will say after being in this business for a year, I do realize how important that is. And although it's not my strong suit, I do need to become more educated on doing better with that.
Oh, I think for someone who sold for 10 years, it was one of those things that you get busy and it slips by the wayside. And it's a vulnerability thing. It's putting all together, making time for it. So I think it's a growth opportunity that many people have. So Okay, what about, where do you guys find that you, and I know it's been a year, but you guys have had a great number of transactions successful with you ladies. Where do you find most of your business comes from? When you look kind of back at that first year, Adrian, what would you say?
Most of it was from sphere of influence, like your inner circle and referrals. I did have some clients that were just from Instagram alone, so that's amazing. And so I think it's really important to, love on who you know and make sure that everyone knows you're a realtor. But from referrals and Instagram.
Nice. Okay, so those Instagram, can we pause for 1 second and talk a little bit about that? They don't just say, I want to buy 123 Main Street. Talk to me a little bit like loving on them. What does that mean?
So really, it's about connecting with them first. So if they follow your page, it's really important to make that introduction like right whenever they follow you. So I would usually start out by making a direct message and saying, hey, thank you so much for following my page. My name is Adrian Towner, and just introducing me. And then saying, if you ever need anything real estate related, I would love to help. So just building that immediate connection with them and saying, hey, I'm here for you if you ever need anything. I think that was really how you start. And then they start supporting your page by liking and commenting. And then you kind of build that online relationship with them. And then whenever they are ready or have questions, they kind of think of you first.
Amanda, how about you? Where do you feel like your business has kind of flowed from? Is there a natural source?
So far, it's been sphere of influence. There have been a couple times where I've gotten referrals, and going into my second year in real estate, I'm really hoping to focus more on referral business and really serving the clients that I've had so far well enough that they will tell their friends and family about me. That's really where I'm trying to head. But so far this year has just been, people who are within my sphere of influence.
Okay, Jeff, what about you? Sounds like we've got a theme.
First year, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It was, like just people you surround yourself with and just, circle of influence. It's around the head.
Nice. Now, what about 4 years in of actively selling?
So at this point, I've been really working off referrals. I try to do a very good job of, especially like right at the closing table, to just start asking questions because, especially they're happy, you did a good job, they're moving in their great, new house. Of trying to get at least one name, and that's helped out quite a bit on just getting the business.
Okay. So, are there events that you go to? Like I know that Jeff is very much being recent. You guys you're in the wedding, getting married kind of season of life a little bit.
Sure.
And do you find that, and Adrian as well, and Amanda, I'm sure. Amanda and I are been married for a while, but I feel like we're young at heart. We still get invited to weddings and things. Do you feel like those events are good places for you to start conversations, or do you feel like there's times that you pick up clients there just because it's a casual environment?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like you start talking about the weather. It's like, okay, well, yeah, okay, how do you know these people? Okay, well, what do you do? So it's an easy transition into, and then, a lot of times too, it's like, oh, I actually looking to buy a house in Overland Park or blah, blah, blah. And then, it's a really easy way to exchange contact information without saying, oh, I sell houses. So, but.
I think my age group, since I fit in right where first-time home buyers are, and I can be relatable to someone that has no idea what even the buying process looks like, and they feel comfortable because I'm in that same, niche area where they are, because I bought my house only 3 years ago. So I think I'm very relatable, and I think that's kind of finding who fits with your client. Just your niche market, and I think it's important.
Okay, nice. Okay, is there stuff besides social media that you have found has worked well for promoting yourself as an agent?
I think just being willing to network wherever you go. I mean people at the grocery store, I just do. And I say most of my business came from sphere of influence, but if I really look back, eventually these people become friends. So I guess that's just, it seems like they become circle of influence. There actually are a couple people this last year who I helped buy a house, who really, I just kind of met them because I was out being friendly. One guy, he was editing some really cool photos from a trip at a coffee shop, and I was just nosy, but in a nice way, asking him about his trip and his photos. Got to know him. He just moved from St. Louis, and he was looking to purchase, and so it just made sense that I would let him know that I was in real estate. And so I think just being willing to talk to people and network, any industry that you're in, but especially in real estate. that's been helpful for me.
Jeff, do you have any way that you promote yourself other than plastering yourself all over the internet?
I mean, honestly, I'm on the phone like a lot, so kind of old school. I mean, I just try to make at least 5 phone calls a day through different people in my phone book, and just to stay in touch. And it's not usually, I kind of let them to bring up the point about, work or business. I mean, sometimes I'll make phone calls and we won't even talk about real estate, but it's really just that point of contact, because especially when you get older, people have kids, they get married, you just, people, it's not like they don't care about you, they just have other stuff going on to forget to reach out. So I think the main thing is if you continue to reach out at some point, you get that feedback where it's like, well, thanks for reaching out, thanks for the birthday card, so on and so forth, and then at least from there. So.
Do any of you guys utilize a transaction coordinator, an admin, or any other sort of leverage at this point?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to go jump on it first?
So, okay. So I have a really hard time of like letting certain things go that like I'm constantly doing. But recently I started getting busier and busier. So a very, very awesome agent, Majid Gabami, his assistant is Lynn, who's helped me out a lot. I don't think he realizes how much she's actually helped me out. Yeah, so I'm kind of to a point now where I really need to make that jump and hire on my first full-time admin. But yeah, I know I wouldn't be as on top of things if I didn't have her. So
yeah, at $11,272,000, I definitely think you're worthy of it. Maybe even 2. I mean, treat yourself. No, that's great. That by all means. Okay, so I was gonna say, how did you find him? But it sounds like it was comfortable for you to partner with someone else.
Yep. Yeah, because
to give up that.
At the time, they were in our office, and we meshed well. And she's very good at just giving me a kick in the pants too when I'm not doing stuff I need to do and reaching out to clients. So that was really good. And now I'm kind of on the search to try to find somebody Lynn 2.0, which I don't know if they exist yet, but it's kind of what I'm focused on. So
at what do you remember kind of what volume you're at, what number of units you're at that you kind of felt like, okay, I need to at least have a transaction coordinator supporting me? Or that
not really. It's just, I think it first stemmed when, and most realtors like this, whenever you have something planned, like I'm going to go out of town, you get busy. So, especially I noticed like last year, that started happening, and she'd help me out, and then I'd get maybe a new buyer or 2 a week, and then trying to go out and show another house where I couldn't have time to write up the contract. That's really when it got to a point where, okay, we need to start doing this, finding somebody to do this full time to help things transition. So, and clients really appreciate it too. Not the fact that I'm always the one that's doing it, but they know that there's somebody there that's dedicated to making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, no, that was always an interesting thing where you feel like, no, it has to be me.
Right.
And yet, if it's being done at a really high level, people are totally great with Lynn.
Sure.
And the Lynn and Jeff show.
Right.
And probably in some ways they're grateful that Lynn is able to handle those things so you can pop out and be more available to them. Okay, what about Amanda and Adrian? Do you guys have leverage that you use in the form of a TC transaction? And I speak jargon, in forms of a transaction coordinator or a admin?
Yeah, in the beginning I did all of it because I think that just for my long-term plan personally, I wanted to be able to be in a position where I can teach people how to do these things for themselves in the future. So it was important for me to do all of that in the beginning, but I have used a transaction coordinator to help with paperwork and things just whenever you do have multiple transactions happening at one time. It is wise, and you should be already in the habit of adding the fee to your agreements anyway, so it just makes sense. But no admin, not quite there yet.
Yes,
but,
I like the word yet.
Yeah. Yes.
And I do have a transaction coordinator, it's Emily Paquin, and she has helped me so much. And I am someone that kind of gets overwhelmed very easily. So adding that leverage made me be able to focus more on my sphere of influence and referrals and just give my clients the dedication and energy levels that they deserve for a great transaction. So it was really helpful, and it made me just be able to grow my business even more.
And focus on like what you enjoy. Exactly. Do you guys, any of you like paperwork? Like, is anyone like missing the TC stuff? Okay, I'm just curious. I always me a little bit about lessons you've learned in real estate thus far. If there was anything that really sticks out to you in the last year that you're like, oh wow, that was a fun lesson.
You cannot overthink everything because it will just completely stunt your growth. I am a huge overthinker, so being able to learn that lesson in the very beginning of my career was pretty important because now I just kind of roll with the punches and know that there's going to be a solution at the end if something does come up. And what's great with like Keller Williams especially is we have a great team leader and just great agents that we can rely on to, help us navigate if we do come into hot waters. Like they've been there before. And so it's just great to have that support and know that you're not alone through all these crazy transactions and don't overthink it because there will always be a solution. So.
And it does get easier with practice,
Yes.
right? Where you're like, oh no, I thought that was crazy. This is nothing.
Yes.
This is nothing compared to what I did 2 months ago.
Exactly.
For sure. Amanda, do you have any?
I would say something similar. I mean, I'm still learning. And so honestly, if I can just say first and foremost, like I'm honored that you asked me to be on the panel, and obviously it's for new people, but understanding that I'm coming from a perspective of a new person. So I don't have a ton of experience, and this would be a great question to ask somebody with a lot of experience. But I will say, kind of similar to what Adrian said, I've had to learn to not take things so serious. Like, of course, what we do is a serious business, and we do need to take serious the things that need to be taken serious. But there were things in the beginning that I would like just totally lose my mind about. I can't believe this is happening. Like, is this the worst thing ever? And somebody would laugh and be like, you'll get through it. And then looking back, it's like, okay, yeah, you just can't take everything so serious. And at the end of the day, I try to ask myself, like, is this situation going to matter 5 years from now? And if it's not, like, try to just take a breath and not worry so much about it. That would probably be the one thing I would say.
So I will take this time though because both of you, I want you to be completely clear. The reason I asked you is that many people get into real estate and their first year in real estate don't sell over $2 million or $2.5 million. It is not an easy thing to, and even though you're in your first year, know that is a good accomplishment. And even though you're new, that's partly where, how do you go and do that? Some people get into real estate in their first year, they're able to sell $500,000. So you guys have done, I mean, it is something to be very proud of, even though it's just been a year, and I'm excited to see. I mean, look at Jeff's trajectory. You started your first year as similar kind of a place, I would say.
Yeah.
If I remember looking at your numbers correctly.
Yeah, I think my first year I did 239,000, 3 transactions.
Oh, boy,
Yeah.
gosh, this is embarrassing. I have a dress on, Jeff. This is going to be really awkward if I No, but that first 12 months, like it was where, and you've grown it to 11 million in 4 years. So, are there lessons learned in those 4 years of practicing that you think would be valuable to share?
Well, I'd say especially recently, in the last year and a half, on the client side of things, if you're dealing with, but if you have a client that they're well qualified, they're not putting 5% down or something like that, and they're in that 225 price range where you'll put in multiple offers and then it'll get sold, and they'll feel like they've done it 3 times where they're just starting to get this train of thought where it's like, I'm never going to find a house. You will. I think it's more importantly now just to kind of get them that reassurance that, hey, the right one's going to be there. It's just keep your head up high and we'll keep moving forward. So.
Would you agree that like a lot of real estate is counseling and
100%, yeah.
being a cheerleader
Exactly.
and being like someone that, that is, when people ask like, what are good traits? And I'm like, did you cheer in high school? Do you own pom-pom?
Right. No, that's 100%. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Okay. In that, when talking about working with other agents, is there advice that you would give about co-oping and how to be a good co-op agent? Jeff?
Yes. Call people back.
Period.
This has happened twice in the past week on 2 different offers where we unfortunately did get beat out, and that'll happen. I mean, you're going to have somebody that's either going to come in cash or going to waive inspections or whatever. But I had one out in Marion where we ended up having 9 offers. But at the end of it, I called 8 people and told them, hey, we decided to go another way. And the respect that you get from that agent just for the phone call, because they're going to know, down the road where you might be trying to put an offer for them. They know that you're going to get that communication. So when I get a text, I just about lose it. But I think just because you put all the time and effort to writing the offer, to presenting something, even if the buyer has a letter or so on. Now you get a text back, hey, we went out of direction. It's kind of like a slap in the face. So that's one thing I would say is, while it's a lot easier to do that, to kind of just get on the phone and let people know you appreciate it.
Well, I hear you saying too, like, be respectful of the other person on the other side, because often, unless you're purely a listing agent, you're going to be that in that other shoe.
Sure.
Are there other ways you found that you work to, or are there ways that you go into like work to build that relationship when you are the buyer's agent? And because we've all very much been on that listing agent side of things too, where you put on the like hot and sexy new listing in Prairie Village, 325, got 37 showings, your phone's blowing up all day long. Are there things that you do as a buyer's agent to build rapport or strengthen that relationship too?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I always try to see exactly, other than net price, what are the seller's expectations. If I see there's furniture in there and I know that they're living there, hey, what if we give you a 30-day close and give you an option for 20-day rent back? What are certain things? We'll let you live in the house for free. So different things where maybe if you don't have cash or you don't have a significant down, ways that you can kind of present your offer and make it sexier, if you will, to the seller to make a move. So.
Okay, any other co-op tips? And then I might ask for some more directed questions for co-oping.
Similar to him, just in those situations where you do have the buyer who is looking in the market that everybody else is looking in, just getting creative. I coach them on the front end. Here's what we can do that won't cost you any money, that make you look better than the competition, so that they're prepared for it when you get to that point. Because sometimes you gotta have the offer in like 2 minutes. Fast. Yeah. And I don't have time to explain to them in that 2 minutes. Like, let's write a letter specifically about this house. Let's talk about higher earnest money. Let's talk about just doing all of that on the front end and letting them know, like, this is something you can do that really doesn't cost you any money, but really helps you stand out, so that when it's time to go, you're prepared to do all those things. That's been helpful, I think, when co-oping, making it look, I guess, good to the co-op agent, having the client ready for that ahead of time.
Adrian, have you, in the transactions you've done this last year, has there been a time where you found you were kind of in a stressful, difficult situation, whether it was an inspection thing that came up, an appraisal that came in low, or something of that sort? I know our culture is to be very win-win, work together. Are there ways that you kind of like have helped build that relationship with the other agent to work together and make it more, I mean, it's not any agent's fault, but to kind of build that co-op relationship and to be a good co-op agent?
Yeah, I think it's just mainly communication and being completely transparent and honest up front. We had an appraisal just come in low, about 10 grand, and we close next week. And the appraisal was actually pretty bizarre. So we're gonna fight the appraisal. And it was a great bonding moment for both my side and the other side, because we're like, this is not right. Let's fight this together for the benefit of both of our clients, not just my client versus yours. Let's come together as a team and kind of fight this because it was wrong. It was wrong. So I think just being transparent and communication is key, and it just kind of makes the transactions smoother and better for everyone involved.
Jeff, do you have any examples or times or tips or strategies for how to work together as a co-op agent to find a win-win when there's stressful, difficult situations?
Yeah, well, so I always try to set a precedent too, where, like, especially working with another agent, we're like, hey, we're just looking to make sure it's safe, sound, and functional. Coin that term, no, safe, sound, and functional. So even though the AC and the furnace might be older, like, we're not going to nickel and dime you, but we need to get them serviced. So I think if you're just, set it up that way, where it's just like, okay, an outlet's not going to work. It's okay. We'll get that repaired at some time. But just let them know, like, I'm not trying to rake you over the coals. We just want to make sure that it's going to be a safe home for the buyer.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, is there a way that you feel, is there actually we went into network for a bit of this time, because I do think networking is incredibly important in this business. I have a few other questions. Did you have anything you wanted to touch on? Otherwise, I might hold my questions and see if the audience has anyone that you would any, no? Okay.
I would just say that being a part of Keller Williams in my first year has just been, and long term, it's just been such a blessing to me, because there's no other training our development out there. In my opinion, even before I was an agent, before I was a part of Keller Williams, I was reading Gary Keller's books. And I mean, there's just, when it comes to personal development and developing yourself as a leader and a business owner, and understanding the business of real estate, it has been incredible having my first year with Keller Williams and all the training opportunities.
Thank you. That's very nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Do you have
This is
anything
one thing I'll touch on is that like never feel like you're alone. Like always reach out to other agents or your broker, because everybody's willing to help. Well, most people are, but because a lot of the stuff, I mean, I'll still call, G, I'll call John, I'll call, call whoever. It's, hey, what other ways would you deal with this situation? Because always be open for kind of learning new ways to do things. Sure.
Yeah, I would say that even if it's a sounding board, I think that was one of the big ahas I had getting into real estate and coming from corporate, where I was like, this is kind of a lonely job. Like, I'm running my own business. This is awesome, but I'm like, dude, like this is just like me. Like, I guess I could hold the mirror up and ask what I want to do. But I would add to that to say, like, don't ever hesitate, even if it is, I think this is what I need to do, or I think this is what I want to do, but to have like sounding board, I think real estate is a place, and I know our culture is that, but often many agents, no matter, have that culture of supporting each other and saying, no, be uncomfortable, do it, that's a great idea, or have you thought about looking at it this way? This might be another option. Okay, so the last question I will ask, what does 5 years look like for you? Adrian, do you want to go first? What would make you say this is awesome, this is amazing?
Building
5 years
my
from now.
own team, probably,
Nice.
getting started on that process, and helping a ton of people buy and sell, of course, and creating the lifestyle that I've always wanted, and I want to make it for myself. So I think working really, really hard and hitting those goals are super important for self growth. But probably on the way to creating my own team.
I would just say that 5 years from now, Sanctuary becomes a brand that is outside of Amanda Sitzman. Like there's a brand recognition there, but it also becomes something that in Kansas City people recognize it for what it is, whether that be there's a team or it grows in other sectors, so that I can become a little bit more autonomous with my own time. I think 5 years is kind of on the way to that for me, getting to the point where my business is allowing me to have more return on energy and time for the things that really matter to me.
Nice. Right, it'll go fast, but you can do a lot in 5 years. You can do a lot in 2 years. Like, it's pretty fun. But Jeff, what is 5 years from now? Like, are we going to see you on billboards? Are we?
No, it's a good question. So kind of like my whole mindset right now is, got the TC, we're going to hiring a full-time admin. I guess in 5 years, I'm trying to buy 2 houses a year as for rental properties. And then so in 5 years, we'll have probably around 12 properties at that point. And I'd really maybe just one agent underneath me. I like the team aspect of things. I just don't know if it's really for me. So maybe if I could just have an admin and then one other agent that I can help kind of grow and also be able to help out, internally.
Nice. Very cool. Okay, you guys have been very quiet and like that's awesome. But any questions that you have for these 3 lovely agents? Any wonderful.
How do the transaction coordinators get paid? Do they get paid a percentage of the sale of the home?
So, I mean, basically I do a transaction fee on top of, whatever percentage getting. So
Okay.
it ranges depending on, their level of skills. So I've seen, anywhere from, $200 to $400, say on average, maybe $300 to $400. So.
Yeah, so typically it's a negotiated amount that a transaction coordinator would have with that agent ahead of time, and it would be a flat fee that they would get paid at closing.
So, and like, I'm a little different too. So like she primarily helps on writing up the offers and getting them sent. Usually after that point, unless it's an amendment to be made or something like that, I'll take care of like, once we do inspections and the resolution, I'll draft all that kind of stuff up. But yeah, anything, addendum or amendments, then I usually ask her to do. So.
Nice. Any other? Anybody?
how has the, like, there's something else that's come to the market that's smart home or something like that, where they're, charging a lower percentage. That's new things like that, and Zillow that's been on the market. How has that affected the real estate market, and how do you use it, and what is the advantage of it? Those things first. So main question, smart home or whatever it is, what do you think about that? And then how do you use Zillow to your advantage, or don't use it at all?
I think you're talking about like the iBuyer, like where Redfin will say like, I'll buy your house for 1% or something. Like
No, I think it's a whole new thing that's coming to the market, and they're charging a lower percentage.
Yeah, similar, yeah.
Okay.
That's what she's.
I have been starting to do, I'm not gonna act like I have this down pat by any means, but I've started to put together a lot more educational material for the people who are already within my circle of influence, to put out through social media channels, and just educate people on what that really means. I mean, you've always heard like you get what you pay for, and making sure that people truly understand and are educated on what value we bring as real estate agents versus the value of an iBuyer or, a Zillow or a Redfin coming in trying to buy it for a lower percentage. The experience is what it's all about. And not to mention, just like if you were going into a listing appointment against another potential agent, it really comes down to the value that you bring to that person. Could you help them get more money? Could you help them sell faster? What is it that they need? Where like the iBuyer, they don't have that human interaction. They don't have you, like your unique thing that makes you stand out. That's how I am starting to do more content on that, because I have a lot of people that, my generation is very much about online shopping, and I've had too many at this point people say, I just went ahead and bought a house and found it on Zillow and called the agent on Zillow. And, that hurts a little bit, because I'm like, well, we're not friends anymore. But I mean, well, maybe, but, so I've decided like, hey, instead of like, losing friendships over this, I should probably educate people on like why calling me first is a better idea. So that's how I've been able to do that.
Well, I think a lot of that too is not just like why it's important to call you first, but also that, I mean, an iBuyer isn't, we're talking about multiple offer situations. Like our inventory level is out of control in Kansas City right now. And as a listing agent, I often didn't want to slow down, like to help somebody that was unrepresented. And like Amanda had mentioned before, like how do we make your offer stand out? How do we make your offer different? Like Zillow, the computer is not able to help really strategize with that. And so much of this business isn't about putting a sign in the yard. It isn't about making a phone call to a photographer. Now it is having those contacts and knowing who to call and what to do to market a home to the highest level. But I think you guys would agree, you become so close with your clients because you really truly are in their lives and you're in their world. And you're the one that when they've got bug eyes and they're like, oh my gosh, and you're like, okay, take a deep breath. We are like, are you okay? Let's make an offer. Like this, I know it's the one, but we're gonna, like, you can do this, it's okay. And that emotional piece and that emotional support is what I think a lot of people realize the value of, and a lot of times too, and I think Amanda, you'll find in time, and Jeff may be able to speak to this too, that once someone's through a transaction with you, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm calling you every time we buy or sell a house because there's no way I can do this without you. Because you really helped me emotionally get through and through all of this. So I think that would be some of the difference. I don't know, Jeff, would you add?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because once you get to the closing table, I mean, they're like, I don't know how this would have happened, because there's just certain things too when you get like an inspection back. If you haven't seen one before, it's like this house is a piece, but it's not. There's just these are normal things for a house that was built in the 70s or the 60s. Where you kind of help ease their mind, where you start seeing all these dollar signs, like it's really, you can be fine for the next 15 years. So I think that has a lot to do with helping manage expectations and, when you're at the closing table, getting that big high five.
Well, and on the listing side of it too, I would say, I guess, Jeff, when you get that, there's been times where there's been an unrepresented seller and they get that inspection report and they think they need to do all of it. But when you have a good counsel there to say, actually, no, like you're in the driver's seat here. I think we could hit safety, and that's what we're sticking to. You've got someone that's saving you dollars there too.
Right.
Not to mention helping up the price and making sure you know what you're doing. Very good question though. That's a super good question. Any other questions? No? Okay. One last question for me then. I think I have like 4 minutes. 2020 goals. What's your goal for 2020? I know we had this thing called COVID. However, what's the 2020 goals?
I'm going to try to hit 15 million this year. It's kind of what my goal is. So just under 9 last year. So I'm thinking that I should be able to hit it.
Nice. Cool.
For Sanctuary, our goal for 2020 is to acquire 1 more Airbnb or rental property this year. Also, before COVID, I had a dollar amount goal that I kind of threw out the window because now I'm just kind of focusing on what I can control at this point, kind of trying to control the controllables. And so the goal now is to have 2 client appreciation events before the year is over and start to have my business function on a referral basis.
And then I believe my goal was 6 million this year. And I think I'm going to exceed that goal, even with the COVID. So
Nice.
it's possible as long as you just keep driving forward. And also, like Amanda said, I'm kind of shifting into that referral based type of business and really digging. I'm going to focus more on reconnecting with my past clients. It's something that I'm still working on. I'm trying to do like client parties and sending out like birthday cards. I need to get a good system. So that's something else I'm working on.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, Amanda, and Adrian for coming and sitting on this and sharing with us. Please, everybody stick around. Socializing and networking is, as we said, super. Oh, and thank you. Is super, super important. I wanted to also, our happy hour and socializing networking time is sponsored by Janelle Anderson of Old Republic Home Warranty. So please. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Okay, absolutely. Not too bad. I'm going to say the first 20 seconds.
No, sorry. You guys did great.
Yeah, that was fun.
There's a lot actually.
You're Lisa? Liz.
Okay, I'm sure you can actually
Nice to meet you finally.
Yeah,